Hello, I'm Jonasz Lewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. So let's begin with the mighty Oreshnik, Russia's shiny new toy, or so the Kremlin would have us believe. In his classic style, Vladimir Putin unveiled this cutting-edge, hypersonic ballistic missile with great fanfare, even though the name literally translates to hazelnut. How fitting, as it seems like yet another cracked attempt to flex military muscles that are, well, a little out of shape.
Сложный день, потому что после удара Орешником идиоты ничего не поняли и нанесли демонстративный удар атакамсами по аэродрому в Курске с нулевыми по результатами, реально там из 6 атакамсов 5 сбиты. 1 самолетов там не было. Ну, то есть это была демонстрация, показать, что нет, мы ничего не боимся. То есть ясно, что это вообще все было исключительно для того, чтобы показать нам, мол, вот смотрите, нам на все плевать, мы будем продолжать делать тот ужас, который делаем.
Oh, so he says no targets were harmed on the ground, almost all the missiles were shot down. Well, it probably means the attack was fairly successful. You know, that's the usual thing with the Kremlin propaganda. Anyway, according to the Kremlin's official narrative, this whole marvel of modern engineering that is the Oreshnik, it can deliver nuclear payloads faster than anyone can say sanctions and all that. Leave it to the Russian propaganda to turn a glorified relic into a Hollywood-esque legend. Yes, dear comrades, we need to talk about this. This whole latest invention actually appears to be a dusted-off prototype developed from the RS-26 Rubezh, a Cold War-era missile design thought to have been shelved a long time ago. It is almost charming how the Kremlin rebrands vintage leftovers as state-of-the-art marvels. You know, we would have called this upcycling, probably, if we were, in the vintage clothing business or something like that, not missiles. Of course, no Russian missile announcement would be complete without a touch of chaos. In a classic twist, fragments of the Oreshnik have reportedly landed in Ukrainian hands, blowing apart the Kremlin's secrecy faster than the missile itself. It's a bit like bragging about a magic trick, only to have the audience find the magician's cheat cards mid-performance. Oh, since we've mentioned fashion, let's talk about this. In the ever-entertaining theater of Russian politics, MP Sergei Mironov decided to grace the State Duma with his bold fashion statement. A t-shirt emblazoned with Putin's face and the words, "One hard Oreshnik." Yes, because nothing screams global superpower like a middle-aged lawmaker strutting around in what looks like knockoff movie merch.
О, супер!
А где заказали, где взяли, где купили?
Где-то поможете. А? Секрет. Вот, секрет говорят.
Рекламы не будет.
So Maria Zakharova, no doubt, is already spinning this into a masterpiece of Kremlin storytelling. Oreshnik, she might proclaim, is a symbol of Russia's indestructible might, and naturally, its deep love for hazelnuts. One can only imagine Putin watching this spectacle from his bunker, pondering if this was what he envisioned as the pinnacle of Russian diplomacy. So, what's the reality here then? A rebranded missile from a bygone era, touted as the pinnacle of Russian ingenuity, now revealed as little more than a budget-friendly upgrade. The Pentagon isn't impressed, the world isn't fooled, and Ukraine is already busy examining the leftovers. How embarrassing. But let's give credit where it's due. The Oreshnik has at least provided some excellent material for satire. In the grand tradition of Russian showmanship, it's less a breakthrough and more a museum exhibit with a fresh coat of propaganda paint. The Kremlin is sparing no effort to yet again prove that in the art of overstatement, they remain the undefeated champions. But forget Russia's much-touted Oreshnik missile for a moment. It seems the real threat to global stability isn't airborne but floating. Enter the Chinese bulk carrier Yi Peng 3, the star of a maritime caper so audacious it could make a Bond villain blush. Allegedly, this unassuming ship, on its merry way from Russia's port of Ust-Luga to port side, took a highly imaginative route, coincidentally taking it over 2 undersea cables in the Baltic just before they mysteriously malfunctioned. Move over, die hard. This is think hard. Apparently, the Russians' ever reliable friends have decided to let China do the heavy lifting in their ongoing performance art piece, disrupting the West. Why bother with expensive missiles and experimental technology when you can simply borrow a Chinese ship and let it engage in some casual undersea yoga? It's a win-win kind of situation, plausible deniability for Moscow, and a fun new way for Beijing to flex its maritime muscles. See? This is the way it goes. The Kremlin naturally has remained silent on the matter. Perhaps Maria Zakharova is busy crafting a heartwarming tale about the Yi Peng 3 conducting humanitarian undersea explorations. Who needs conspiracies when you have creativity? Meanwhile, Chinese state media will likely paint the vessel's detour as a heroic act of ecological surveying to protect Baltic biodiversity or something. And the timing. Just as Russia tries to sell the world on its Oreshnik as the most cutting-edge innovation since sliced bread, along comes a cargo ship to unintentionally overshadow it. While there are supposedly no countermeasures capable of intercepting the Oreshnik, it seems no one warned Moscow that the Yi Peng 3 would make their latest military flex look like an amateur magic trick by comparison. So here we are, watching Moscow and Beijing continue their slapstick routine on the global stage. The Baltic cables are down. But the absurdity, that's still fully operational. If this is the new world order they're offering, let's just hope their next big idea isn't to use weather balloons as a defense system. Alright, so let's move on to the glorious adventures, or misadventures perhaps, of Russian officials. Sergei Manenkov, the governor of the Beloyarsk region, is not just a public servant, but also an avid angler, or as locals suggest, a professional rule bender. Boasting about his fantastic 50-kilogram pike haul on social media, Manenkov seems to have overlooked the small detail that the legal daily limit for fishing pike in his region is 10 kilograms per person. Now, who needs rules when you're a local official and, of course, a loyal cog in Putin's propaganda machine? The rules, well, they may, in these cases, be fairly flexible.
Добрый день, дорогие друзья! Вот итоги суточной рыбалки. Вообще-то рыбалка получилась зашибись! Дорогие мои друзья, будьте здоровы, берегите себя! Ну вот, дорогие друзья, время ночное, и флажок сработал. Сейчас посмотрим, что там есть. Ну-ка, Петрович, не подведи. Вот это да! Это красотулечка идет, ё-моё-то, блин. Ну-ка, ну-ка, тишина. Ой, блин, ё-моё, да ты чё на самом деле? С Петровичем никто не спорит, да ты чё на самом деле? Иди-ка, красота какая! Иди сюда, я тебя за глазки возьму. Ах, идем фотографироваться будем.
So, enter his press secretary, Irina Shevir, the true hero of damage control. With a straight face, she explained that Manenkov wasn't fishing alone. Oh no, it was a collective effort with his like-minded comrades. Of course, part of this shared bounty was nobly sent to children's homes, because nothing says good governance like turning poached fish into a PR stunt. In a country where following laws is optional for those in power, Manenkov's pike extravaganza is just another day at the office. Maybe next time he will use a trawler. After all, the propaganda machine will always find a way to spin it as happening for the people. And with this, we conclude this episode of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.